let's get negative. It's a little bit too much positivity. No, I'm playing. So. What's up, y'all? I'm JJ. We're out here in Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm having this conversation through P68 with all these amazing black men here. We're gonna be talking a lot about black manhood. I'm gonna let everyone introduce themselves, beginning with Matt.
Matt Barnes, NBA vet, father of soon-to-be 7, and yeah, it's a lot of shit going on. And I'm just happy to be here.
Van Lathan, host of the Higher Learning Podcast, father of 0. Thank you, Planned Parenthood.
That he claims.
That's crazy.
What we're voting for.
Yeah. But just overall media guy, author, all of that stuff.
Garret White, resident of Durham for 10 years. Not really Googleable like these guys yet, but father of 3, married to a beautiful wife, and investor, real estate investor.
It's coming though, it's coming. Sam Archer, engineer by day, serial entrepreneur by night. I know we're here having softening conversations, so I like to start softening the room. I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a brother, uncle, the same thing like these guys here with me, and I'm just happy to be here. So.
Okay, I feel like I should have given a heartfelt intro about myself. I'm JJ, I make political content, I talk to my phone at times, and then I get to do things like this. Obviously a son to immigrant parents, so it's like when it comes to views in the black diaspora, I'm very uniquely situated. But I know generally the thesis of this conversation being like what your part of the world looks like. I just kind of want to briefly, for all of you, like what does like exuding like black masculinity look like for each of you, like within your day-to-day lives, whether it's things you do or like things that you care about that you feel like is something that you can pull from personally as a black man?
I'll start. For me, being somebody who works in corporate America, a lot of my day-to-day is really just being an example. I've been the first in a lot of offices. I've been in offices where I've been told that I don't belong in. What's this guy doing here? Literally to my face. And so coming from an HBCU, I went to North Carolina A&T. I like to set the example that somebody who's coming out of school from there with a degree can do these things and can excel at them. So I like to set myself as an example for the people coming behind me.
Mm-hmm. I'm not really in corporate America too much. I've been doing entrepreneurship for almost 10 years now, but setting an example for my kids, showing up for my wife on a daily basis, and then just carrying yourself with respect. I don't think it dictates black masculinity versus any other type. It's just being a man in your everyday life.
Usefulness. I was raised by a man, and that man used to tell me that there's nothing as impotent as a useless man.
That's real.
So I have to be useful to the women in my community. I have to be useful to my mother, to my sister, to my brothers. I have to be useful. I have to mean something and do something and be someone that they can rely on, and someone that they know will take care of them. And doesn't matter who you are, like what kind of man you are, if you're that to me is what masculinity is.
Fatherhood. I've been blessed to play a long time professionally and run a lot and be a part of a lot of different businesses, but I think the one I take the most pride in is fatherhood. I think that overlaps or overrides everything. And as these gentlemen before me said, the example on a daily basis I have to set. Never perfect, because I'll fuck up, but I'm very real and I can admit when I'm wrong. So I just think, again, the example I'm laying for 5, soon to be 6 black young men and a 13-year-old daughter on a daily basis is where I kind of hang my hat on the masculinity side, the provider, the lead by example.
And I want to touch on that because obviously when it comes to this panel and conversation, I'm an infant. But
I am a child myself.
So I haven't really had to step too much in the role of like provider or protector necessarily yet. So I wanted to touch on you guys' perspective on how you show uncompromising protection for the people that you love. Because coming from a fatherhood perspective, that's one of those things that you constantly have to think about. I'm not even one, and I think about like that when it's like when I get to that point in my life. So
yeah, I mean, man, it's a constant. I mean, first and foremost, starting at the top, making my fiance feel safe and secure. I mean, that's her one thing. I gotta feel secure. I gotta feel safe. So, you know, as the man, that is something that I take head on. And then, you know, making sure that I work as hard as I possibly can to put my family in the best situations. You know what I mean? I came from violence and food stamps and family houses and moving from house to house. So, you know, I busted my ass to be able to provide private school and gated communities. You know what I mean? So I'm not embarrassed of that. I hope my kids aren't embarrassed of that. But I just think that security and really the essence of providing is something that, you know, I've been blessed to be able to do and really love doing.
I can go ahead. Yeah. I think it's a double side to that word compromise. When I say I'm a new dad, I'm literally like 12 days in. Like, so it's super fresh. Yeah. It's super fresh. Yeah, super fresh. But uncompromising in the way of protecting my family, my child, my wife, is really unwavering. Standing on what I believe, standing on the things that, as a leader, I feel like will get my family to the next level. But also on the flip side of that is uncompromising them for being in a situation without me. Right? So when I make decisions in society, or when I make decisions because I'm emotional or unchecked emotions, I leave them vulnerable to things of this world that I'm actually trying to protect them from. So I think when you're looking at that word compromise and being uncompromised, you got to look at it from both sides like that.
I know you have something to say.
No, yeah, I mean, you know, to me, is maybe a little off kilter, but empathy.
Yeah.
Because as men, we, rightfully so, we take up a lot of space. And you walk into a room. I remember, just a quick one. I remember as I was going into like the gifted program in school. And when I got in there the first day, I didn't like it because all the kids were white. And they had taken me out of my class, was in there, you know, being there listening to Rob Bass and doing the whole 9 or whatever. Then I get in there and these kids is on some Garth Brooks, what's going on? And so, you know, I come back and I'm like, I don't want to do it. Like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. And my dad says, look, you're going to stay in the class. You're going there. And when you walk into the room, make sure that everybody knows you're in the room. Everybody knows that you are there and that they feel you and that they're a little bit scared. And so I walk away. My mom goes, come here. And she goes, you could do it that way. Or you could walk into the room and have everybody know that they're safe with you in there. That like, you're there, you could do a little bit extra to put yourself in their position. And I melted to 2 things. With a strong back and an open heart. And to me, that's how I don't compromise. Like, I'm not too tough to feel for you, but I am tough enough to tell you to get the fuck out of my face.
Yeah.
Important.
That's facts.
Important.
Yeah, no, compromise, when I hear that word, it just means there's a break in the consistency. And so for me, it's going to be consistent every day. Even if I'm not there, my kids know I'm there in some way. My wife is going to feel that I'm checking in with her and making sure that all their needs and priorities are still mine, whether I'm on a trip, whether I'm waking up right next to her. And so I just feel like consistency comes from never giving that up any day.
Yeah, and I like the bit about like when it comes to uncompromising and when it comes to being aware of yourself as like a man in the space that you take up. I feel like one of the key things that, at least from a younger perspective, that I feel gets missed a lot is that I feel like I started realizing recently how many people genuinely like move around the world and don't take time to analyze how their actions affect people and how their actions like can have an impact on people, regardless of whether or not it's in your face. So in that same vein, like how do you guys pay attention to the structures that you build within your lives when it comes to your family or when it comes to just how you carry yourself through the world as a man? Because I feel like a lot of times when you do the day-to-day, you don't really realize that like, oh, my sentiment that I instilled or something that I was doing raising my kids or something like that, maybe that impacts how they think about a certain thing. Maybe it's not just a, oh, they mad at me or they hate me situation. Maybe it's like, what could I have done better? What could I have improved on to make sure to create the conditions where it's like, okay, I can understand where that person's coming from.
I think it comes down to presence, right? Presence of self, environmental presence, your emotional presence. People will tell you how you treat them, right? How they come around. You'll know who's for you by when you say no. Say no early and often, and you'll really see who's for you. I think therapy, being able to kind of understand who you are, and like I said earlier, unchecked emotions get a lot of us in trouble as far as the Black male population, and just understanding when to react to certain things and how to react to certain things. Like you said, you show up in the room, you get mad at the teacher, you start throwing desks, people are gonna look at you way different than if you're up there helping the teacher kind of, get the class settled and stuff like that. So just having that presence of self to look around and say, what's happening right now? How are people looking at me? Is it fear? Is it endearing? Is it happy? But also being able to center on yourself and make the right decision. So.
Yeah, I was on the phone with my mom one time, and I knew it was going to be a long phone call because she had something to say about the lady at the store. And
that lady.
Yeah. Lady. And here's the thing, mom was 100% wrong, okay? like 100% wrong, right? But you know what I did before I asserted whatever? I just listened.
Yeah.
I just listen, and then after you've listened and you fully poured into what's happening on the phone, you go, well, mama, can I say one thing? Sure, baby. Now you've leveled the playing field to where you've made her feel safe to maybe not be right. And I haven't imposed anything on her. I think sometimes we think that manhood is about like what we can impose on people because we compete. Like that's what we do.
Yeah.
We compete. Get off me. You know what I mean? Like we compete. But it also can be about like this devastating kindness that makes people feel stronger in your presence. And so I think that's important too. And that's the lesson I've learned, particularly since the death of my father. And more people have like turned to me for stuff. I've just learned how to like literally put them in a position where they feel like their voice is a little bit louder.
That's dope.
I think that's one of those things where, especially when it comes to leaving your impact and reaching out to like, and reaching those people, is one of those things that as a man, when it comes to imparting things on people, I feel like it's equally about what you're saying and how you're saying it, but not like ever limiting yourself. I don't think that there needs to be like I know there's talk about what's it called when you like basically couch what you saying differently in politics. I forget, what is it called? It's like tone policing or something like that, where I feel like you don't need to limit who you are and your personality traits, but it is equally important how you connect with a certain person. Because I could tell you like something that you're doing or a way in which something that you said might have affected me. But if you're not even like open to realizing that like, oh, maybe I got something wrong really quick, then you immediately shut off. That applies not just to manhood, but like even when you talk to people about politics. If I disagree with you and you've been conditioned to believe a certain thing a certain way, me telling you, nah, you're wrong, it's not gonna really get through to you, as opposed to like opening it up and being able to like get through. So is that, I'm curious with you, especially as somebody who's been through fatherhood a lot, like is that something that you encounter? I mean, but was I wrong?
And still going.
Still going.
I'm dad and stepdad, so that's why the number is so high. But I also think what's important is men, especially and I've been in a position of providing since I went to college. You know, I made it out. You know what I mean? So being able to take care, and I always felt like I needed to let them know with my presence and at times money how much they meant to me. So I've always been a provider since a teenager. And you know what I found, I'm 44 now, putting myself first is very important to making sure that I'm all checked up, I'm all good, all my levels and energy is high, because if it's not, I can't be the best provider. I can't give my kids the best life. I can't be the best person possible to my fiance. Yeah, so I think sometimes so often we get on our hamster wheel of we have to provide, because we do. Yeah. But we also need to be able to put ourselves first. And you know, through therapy, I found, you know, how do I get away? I'm always so busy in dad and business. Golf. Like, make sure I'm in it, and it might piss my girl off sometimes, but like, this is my thing, babe. Like, this is how I'm gonna get away for 4 hours and clear my mind and not take, some days it's calls, but most of the time just clearing with the joint out there playing golf. And that's what I need to refuel my tank. And again, so often I think we are in a position to provide, and it's the best job I've ever had, again, fatherhood and being a provider, but really make sure that you're okay and you're hitting on all cylinders, because if you're not, you can't be the best in any other field. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's get negative. It's been a little bit too much positivity. No, I'm playing. As y'all know, and I love talking shit. So as y'all know, there's a gubernatorial race happening in North Carolina this year, and one of the main candidates is a black man, which is why this is pertinent to this conversation. I'm gonna go over some comments that he's made, and I want to see not only where they align with your values, which I know they won't, but just mainly talk about it and see, like, if this is like indicative of things we've seen before in the black community, or is it just like what our take on it as fellow black men are. So this is a quote from Mark Robinson. Feminism has raised a generation of weak-minded, jelly-backed men who refuse to accept their God-given responsibility of being spiritual leaders and provision providers of their households. The question being, throw in whatever thoughts, but also base question being, what is being a feminist? What does that mean to you? And does being a feminist affect your personal masculinity?
Affect your personal I don't know why that would. Well, to go into it, I'll jump out. I don't find that being in support of one person takes away from me. So that negates the question right there. But being a feminist is showing equity to all women, not just the women in your circle, but making sure that they have the tools to be able to continue to grow on a level playing field, not just saying I get 2, you get 2. Is, well, if you need 5 right now while I get 2 to catch up, that's what we need to do. And so I feel like moving forward with that attitude of feminism, and then putting it on this guy's other remarks is kind of crazy with the jelly bag week, everything like that. We are seeing a new generation of young men growing up. It's different. You're going to adapt to your environment. Back when the best job you could get is working in a steel mill, you're going to see different men than now. Most people want to be content creators and be in front of a camera. You can run up a bag doing that. And I'm not mad that people are attempting to do it, but it's going to breed a different goal orientation. Is going to breed different outcomes in just the way that they present to gain that attention that works in this day and age. And so, do I agree with everything? And, you know, I've seen the young rookie McCain at Philly. That's kind of throwing me off a little bit.
TikTok's so
But if he gets buckets, get buckets.
Yeah.
But, you know, I don't want to ramble too much. But yeah, it's a different type of young man coming up right now than what I used to look up to. And I think the old guard is also having way more of a tough time seeing that and accepting that it's a new world that they're not going to fit in too much longer.
I feel that in the sense that I also think that one of my problems with this comes directly from the lack of understanding of concepts. So you can get away with talking about how feminism makes people jelly-backed or whatever he said when you don't fundamentally understand feminism's role in supporting masculinity as well, because it's never like in opposition to. There are things that men are expected to do, and we've touched on it at times during this panel, but there are things that men are expected to do because of patriarchy, because of systems of beliefs that were there before us, that it's like, maybe if you live in a different society in which the gender dynamic isn't as like stringent, you're maybe not placed under as much of that burden. And maybe you don't feel like less of yourself because, oh, I'm not making hella money right now, or, oh, because I'm not as strong and able to protect. Like, there are so many things that you put yourself up to that maybe isn't as reasonable, but you still feel bad about it if you don't live up to it, because that's something that was imparted on you based off of like patriarchy. And the counterbalancing force to that would be feminism. But if you don't understand what it is and you see someone talk about it in a bad way, that allows you to attach all these negative things.
I would, for a man that had a problem like finding where he feels about feminism, I'd ask him straight up. And this goes into feminism, but it's a fundamental question for anyone that you find yourself sort of aligned with. Like, do you want women safe? Most men would say yes. If you want women safe, then you want women powerful. There's no compromise.
Yeah.
Anything that is not powerful is unsafe. Like, if we on the basketball court and, you know, somebody fouled me too hard, or I fouled them too hard, which is probably what would happen, and we getting ready to fight, if I look at them and I go, they're too small, I'll mess them up, and I stall them out, well, that's protection. Like, that's protection. I'm protecting this person. I'm stalling them out, but that's still an assertion of power. If that person can hurt me, if they have the power to hurt me, maybe not even kill me, but if they have the power to rip my shirt or to bloody my nose or just to do something that lets me know I was in a fight, they have a little bit of power. It's not worth it for me to hurt them. So I think twice about doing so, right? I want the women in my community to have the ability to have the power that they need to make my life hard, to hurt me, to affect my career, to affect all of those things. Because if they're powerful, then they're safe. And if you want women powerful, if you want them safe, you're a feminist. That means you will do the work to examine the structures that have been placed inside of you, to examine the inconsistencies that are inside of you, to have the patience to understand the things that you are educated to that might be informing you in a way that's not nourishing for them, that you'll do all of that. But you really have to think about it. Like, this was the thing with the Me Too movement. I understand that the Me Too movement is very controversial for a lot of people. People don't want to discuss it. But it was, in my lifetime, the first time I saw women exercising power in a way that it could affect men, that made men think twice about harming them. If you can harm somebody with impunity, you simply lord over that person. There's no two ways about it. So if I got a chance to talk to a Dome head and I was able to discuss that with him, I'd ask him very simply, the women in this room, do you want them to feel safe in this room? Then you want them powerful? Then you're a feminist.
I think too, I mean, obviously they've touched on and made all great points, so I won't beat a dead horse, but it's insecure men that have an issue with that.
Fantastic.
It's insecure men that have the issue. And as he said, I mean, me supporting something else doesn't make me any less of a man or anything less because I am in support of something else. I think we live in a society today, and I think you touched on it, either or. Who's the best player ever? Either or. You know, there can be, you know, several truths on both sides of the coin. Yeah. Who's next? Okay. No, but I think, again, all jokes aside, I just think it's insecure men that just have an issue with women starting to climb the ladder they're climbing.
For sure.
And we not done with Ladome Head yet. Another, and this speaks mainly to the outlook of Black men as a whole and like our community, which is something that I get very passionate about. Another quote from him, he says, "Deadbeat men, the whorish women they breed with, and the undisciplined children they produce are the top 3 issues in that order that cause African American culture to be a dismal failure." So as Black men who have families, how does it feel to hear those narratives coming from people within your community about your people and your children?
This thing, I mean, it's self-hate first and foremost. You know what I mean? He's projecting all of his insecurities across the board. When he's downplaying women, downplaying men. If I'm not mistaken, his son is a felon. You know what I mean? But he still wants to critique and downplay all these different people, because at the end of the day, as on my last, he's not secure here. And also he probably knows just being his same boring self hasn't got him attention. So let me jump off and try to be a black version of Donald Trump and say outlandish shit, because the loudest mouth now it gets the most attention. It's not about being first. It's about being right. Or excuse me, it's not about being right. It's about being first. And unfortunately, we live in a society now that rewards loud, obnoxious, clickbait type stuff. So he figured like the normal me, the boring me is not doing anything. Let me try to jump out here and be somebody else. So I just see a lot of self-hate and insecurity. And I probably didn't answer your question, but when you see the outlandish shit he says, it's just that all starts here with him. And I think it has more to do with him than anybody else he can ever talk about.
And honestly, it really just sucks. Like in our community, there's so much divide in itself that when somebody in a position of power or seeking a position of power talks like this, it just increases that divide, it increases that fear that there's a group of people that believe that, right? And we looking into society and we're like, well, what happens if he gets in power, right? What happens to our children? What happens to our families if this guy gets in power? And that's one of the things that really scares us as a community in whole. So
yeah, and overall, what happens to the perception of Black people?
Yeah,
like I feel like you guys think it makes sense to kind of question, because I feel like one of the things that hints at is also like fundamentally misinterpreting the concept of personal responsibility. Because I think that it's very important to have that when it comes to stuff that you do, especially as a man, how you carry yourself and like day-to-day stuff. But you also have to ask questions of your broader society and how we've gotten to a certain point. So if you are claiming the blame for generations upon generations of trauma and racism and discrimination and everything on, well, you chose the wrong woman to have a kid with, that not only lacks nuance for the sake of making Black people look unintelligent, but it also lacks the depth necessary to understand, like, okay, well, what if I choose the right person, in my opinion, and stuff still doesn't work out? It's like, but I don't think that it's doing that because he doesn't understand the issue. I think that a lot of people deliberately are doing that, whether it's to seek power or to
attention.
Or to seek attention.
But what does that have to do with the issues, right?
Yeah.
Right. And like Matt said, it's a popularity contest. So and we talked about it a little bit off camera, when a lot of people get into the booth to vote, they're going to remember names because they haven't researched the issues or they haven't researched policies. They're going to say, oh, I've seen this guy's name. He must be popular. And they're going to go with the popular vote. But that's why it's important for conversations like this or platforms like this to really get people to go and do their own research, because this guy's winning a popularity contest because of clickbait, right? His name is getting out there because of not his policies or what he's looking to change. He hasn't talked about what he's doing to make the change.
Right.
He's talking about blame and controversial issues that keep getting his name out there, so that when voting time comes up, you don't even know who he's running against. You just remember his name. It's just ringing in your ear. So when you see it on the ballot, you're like, oh, I think I like this guy. I don't really remember what he was talking about, but I've heard his name 1,000 times. So he gotta be the right vote.
Well, at this point, his comments are triggering. So I'm gonna remember it from all the wrong reasons. And to say that Black culture is failing isn't of itself is a lie. I think Black culture is the rose that grew from the concrete. And we've had to go, if you're not going to mention any of the systemic issues that we've had to go through, I think you touched on that briefly in all of the conversation, and just talk about portion of our community's outcome, then you're not talking about, like you said, the issues at all. And so going through redlining, through gerrymandering, through all of the different things that have been going on for the last decades, and we're still on the uprise as a culture, I think is a testament to our will, our strength, and just endurance to continue to grow in this community that has done everything to stop our growth.
One thing I'll say about him is, so he's not a part of my community, right? So he's not in my community. A community is a choice. It's a deliberate act that you make to build and share with people for whatever reason. I'm not saying that you might not decide to make community with people because you agree with them 100% politically. It might be out of necessity, it might be out of proximity, but there has to be something in it for you. When we talk about the Black community, I think we start to whittle that down to everyone Black, right? And it's not that. the Black community is made up of people who have chosen to be a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's responsibility with that choice. And part of that responsibility is to, in my opinion, is to speak in ways that are nutritious and energetic and uplifting to that community.
Mm.
And if you're not doing that, then you're not in it.
Yeah.
So part of the reason why guys like that get covered to do what they do and then get to become mascots for a community that they have no interest in being a part of. When he said that, he was talking to a bunch of white people, right? And the majority of the time he's speaking to a bunch of white people. Is because because of our history, we bring everybody into this tent of Blackness when Blackness is an emotional, intellectual, and cultural endeavor.
Mm.
And not everybody Black wants to be a part of it.
Yeah.
It's just a fact.
Yeah.
And there's a level of being accepted, right? Because you could want to do the work, but we also like accept you into the community. And not every Black politician is Barack, right? And then we gotta come to terms with that, right? And understand, like you said, not just open the doors for everybody to say, my community, right? We, like you said, we don't accept that. We don't accept you in our community, so you don't speak for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that makes sense. And there'll be one more from him before we move along, because I know he is. But a quote from Mark Robinson, he says, Black folks are hypocrites who remain silent while they murder each other in abortion clinics and gang shootouts, but then raise hell when a white cop kills a Black criminal. Now, this is not anything different from what we've heard before because, you know, same script. But just speaking on abortion access from a Black male perspective, because I feel like that's one of those, it's a topic that kind of is like tangentially related, like, you know, the importance of it, but I feel like we don't deep and understand like the depth of maternal like healthcare in the Black community. And then also just like, you guys feel like stuff like this is driven intentionally, or is it just like organic with the product of like polarization?
How do you mean?
As in like, candidates like Mark Robinson, people getting popularized from being a member of a minority group who says
he's parroting the GOP. I mean, that's the talking points every single year. So no, it's not organic. Mm-hmm. It's the same talking points that they handed him the script and he ran with it. He's just louder.
Would you like a random statistic?
Yeah.
Okay. Just random. I was just surfing the net for statistics. Sometimes I just look up things on the internet for hours on it.
Fun life.
I have a great life.
Great life.
Great life. Like I got into a rabbit hole today and now I know everything about North Carolina Central, whatever it is. I didn't know about it before.
You didn't do that much research, then. That's all you got. Yeah, you didn't do that much research.
You feel away. But in the city of Boston, the median wealth for a white family is $285,000. That's not bad. Guess what the median wealth for a Black family is?
37.
$0.
Yeah.
Sheesh.
Like $0. Like no money. The median wealth for a Black family in Boston, $0. In LA, the median wealth for a white family is, I think, around $350,000. For a Black family, I think it's around $5,000. I could go on. So, and the reason why I throw those numbers out there is because it takes a long time and a lot of systemic dysfunction to manifest that type of disparity in resources. Okay? These are not things that are made up so that someone could say, woe is me, or stand outside church on Sunday asking the rich people for alms. They're facts. He knows that's true. Like, he knows it's true. He knows that part of America's endeavor into not solving problems that are systemic and entrenched in this country is by blaming culture or the individual decisions of millions of people for outcomes that are clearly influenced by systems.
Talk about it.
So what he's doing is insidious because he's giving cover to people who don't want to feel like they have to have any agency in fixing a problem. But the reason why he gets to do that, once again, is because his skin is is something that allows him to be sort of an interloper and get into a spot and where there is a black guy saying it. We have someone who is calling out the truth about black people.
Yeah.
We have to excise people like that.
Mm-hmm.
We have to distance ourselves from them. When people say that we can't legislate people's blackness or negotiate people's blackness, I disagree.
Yes, we can. Obama.
I disagree. I don't think that that's true.
Yeah.
I don't think that it's a birthright. I think it's like anything else.
It's a choice.
Like you might be born a Negro, but you might not be black.
Mm. Yeah. I think that's very profound in the sense that it's like the point about being hypocritical when simultaneously, these are the same people who will talk about like black privilege because there was like a BET one time. And it's like, you don't understand that the black privilege that you're benefiting from is the one beneficial way in which your skin color can be used predominantly is them taking someone of your skin color to peddle the things that they think about you secretly. Mm. That's the black privilege in the sense that it's like you now have the privilege of being insulated from criticism about the batshit crazy things you think about your own people because from the outside, from the people who don't like any of y'all are the same people. Mm. And that's why I think part of the power is taking that back and being like, no, we share the same skin color, but you're not like us. As someone said, you're not like us. Like that's one of the biggest things that I feel like is incumbent on people in the black community now because we see that there's an onslaught from all directions, people who you think are on your side and everything, because people realize that a lot of people want to be made to feel comfortable. And the number one way you are able to be made to feel comfortable is if someone who's supposed to be a victim or like a member of a demographic that you affect is saying, nah, there's no fire. There's no problem. Don't worry about it. You can go to sleep now. Like that's the whole thing, which is funny because I was talking earlier about how those same people are like, oh, I'm the enlightened one. Yeah. Your whole job is to make sure people are not enlightened and remained in the dark about it.
But see, what I hate really too is that his system is working because he's going to say so many things that are going to make black people not vote, but he knows his people are going to vote. Republicans are going to be at the polls, no problem. And he knows if I say enough things to turn people off, they just won't vote. And it's going to work. And I hate, like we talked about it a little earlier, like I hate when people say, well, I'm not going to vote. Well, there's an issue for voting rights because if they wanted everybody to vote, there wouldn't be an issue for voting rights. Yeah. So the systems have worked over time. That's why there's such a disparity in the wealth gap, because the systems are working. And there's so much propaganda out there that's happened over time and over centuries, over decades, that we don't know the truth. So it's like when we talked earlier, it's like, where do we give our community the truth about what's going on? So pages like yours, platforms like this, give them the truth to do their own research and somewhere to start, because maybe you don't go to Fox. Maybe you go to Shade Room. You know what I mean? Like where people are finding their information varies, but where the truth is what we need to get to our community so that they can make informed decisions and not make the decision to just not vote.
Yeah. And on a more positive note, since we can get back positive, what do you guys think would motivate people to vote and participate?
Gotta restore some faith, man.
Yep.
Nobody trusts healthcare system, law enforcement, nobody trusts the political system. I feel like it's at a record low, and trying to implement something that gives people a little bit of hope that it's actually not all puppet strings, I think would be ideal. The main thing for me is more term limits on those positions and not letting people only focus on getting reelected year after year, but actually focus on doing something.
Yeah.
Instead you just got people who talk all day and get people excited, go out, vote, and then they go sit on the hill.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What do you guys think?
I don't know. I don't know. The motivations for why people do things, it's different issue to issue, but you'll take care of anything that you feel like you own, if you feel like it's yours. But if you feel like you don't have any agency and something doesn't apply to you, then you tend to you tend to be less intentional with it. And there's a fundamental issue about America doubling down on the notion that Black people aren't American for a long time. You feel that, right? And you feel it, and you feel it. And the only way to undo that is to leverage your political power. And just talking to a weird group of people and telling them that the only way for them to get ahead is to do more, generation after generation, it's difficult. I don't know. But I will tell you this. I think it's gonna take less effort now than it has in the past. I think that we're more connected than we've ever been. And the idea sharing, there's more misinformation than there's ever been, but there's also more information, there's more coalescing, there's more community building. So I think, like, to be honest with you, your infant generation of people, like, they give me hope because you guys seem to care a little bit more. You seem to make caring cool. Like, boy, if you could have been around in 2003, we didn't give a fuck. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like you guys got your jargon together and you got your language together and you want everybody, you guys care about the environment. Man, we was going to the phone party. You know what I'm saying?
In them boots.
In these boots. In these boots. So I think it's changing, but I don't know about a specific elixir to the problem of political apathy. I think that's why I stay on the ground with people like the people at P68. So, and me and Matt, we get involved in this stuff so we can figure out what that is. But I'm honestly, I'm not sure yet.
I think, I don't want to discredit what you said, but I think you said something profound off camera. And it's crazy because the podcast before the podcast is always so deep. But make it easier. And you said that earlier. Make it easier for people. Make it easier for them to get the truth. Make it easier for them to get to the polls. Make it easier for them to understand the policies. And maybe that's going to start with spoon feeding, right? Maybe that's going to start with getting on the ground and telling them, yo, this person don't believe this, and show them, right? Like I said, this guy's saying a lot of stuff, but he hasn't talked about his own policies, right? He's like, where's the work that he's going to do? Where's the platform or the plan in place to show you the changes that I'm going to make? And really just get the candidates that we want in office to do that. Like, hey, now I'm not going to just go clickbait for clickbait, but I'm going to actually show you the plan of work that I'm trying to do and how it's going to play out. And I think doing that is going to help people get more involved because you take ownership in it. So,
yeah, I think too. I mean, obviously this space, and I almost feel like a puppet because I said on the last show, but I think it rings true as a space we haven't had a voice or a footprint in. And I think they call us minorities to kind of keep us in our place, but we're actually the majority. You mean, so just to understand, first of all, what that power is, and I'm with Van. What is? I mean, obviously we're creating platforms, using our platforms, trying to figure out how do we get the information to them. And I think you said something else, like you have a certain lifestyle you live and things you value. Well, this is what, and without even having to tell who to vote for, this is their style, this is their policy, this is what they believe in. Like that really doesn't align. So I say all that to say is that the local and state level is how we have to really start people, grassroots, to get them engaged in understanding what their voice means and what their power as a unit means. And that's where you're going to see the immediate turnaround, the potholes fixed, the lights fixed, better, free lunch, whatever you're looking for, whatever appeals to you. I think when you said bite size, start with one or two things that really either affect your family or community and vote and see the outcome. And when you see the positive outcome from that, that's going to probably increase your appetite a little bit until you really want to try to take on this big monster when you think about national stuff and the presidency and all that stuff. But I would really just say in your own communities, talking to your grandparents or your parents, or understanding how it used to be and the progress that's been made, but still where it needs to be going. So local and state to me is how you get people in there, but to get that message to them and for them to understand that, I think is still the mystery that we're trying to solve.
I think something that I'll just quickly throw in that I value as well is that I feel like honesty. I feel like honesty is such a slept-on thing because I don't think that one of the things that I despise about like politicians is that I never feel like it's genuine. Like I very rarely will feel like it's genuine because I don't you're running a country, you're doing something that's or you're running like a municipality or something, you're doing something that's very demanding. I know you didn't get it right 100% of the time. I don't only want to hear about when we passed this initiative and it got XYZ amount of people and we're doing really good. I want to hear about, hey, I had this tough vote, but I had to weigh this and this, and I came on this decision because I think that was the more beneficial thing. I could be wrong. Like, I want there to be a human
transparency.
I want there to be transparency. I want there to be a human there, because I feel like when you don't do that and you just say, well, we're doing all this, if there's a negative impact of that policy that everyone already knows, then it feels like you're lying about it. It feels like you're not being genuine. It feels like you're ignoring the problem where you're probably just trying to couch it to a bunch of people. I feel like being yourself and being honest is something that if a lot of politicians started doing that, you'd have a lot more faith in it, because it's not like I'm voting for some prepackaged thing. Yeah, I'm voting for a person who makes mistakes. Like I want one time for the State of the Union to not be like perfect and strong. Like the State of the Union, man, we got some work to do. Like something like that. Like it's never always gonna be sunshine and like rainbows. So I don't like when people treat it that way. It's like there's a lot of work that needs to be done. So that's one of my biggest things. But thank you guys.
To piggyback on I would just say also someone who actually admits that the other side did something right. If someone did that, I think I would feel 20,000 times more inclined that you are being transparent, to actually, to not try to demonize the other side every chance you get, but to say, you know what, we're going to try to build on top of that if we come into something. But everything is so tit for tat and polarizing that I feel like it just separates everyone from finding the truth.
I feel like it can even muddy when there's reason to do that. Like even if there is reason to be like, okay, everything that y'all have done has hurt people. If no one can ever agree like on, oh, well, what y'all did also hurt people. If it's always like that conversation, then you even muddy the waters on who's like actually right in the situation. Is it just I disagree with what they did, or is it what they're doing has tangible impact? But there's never that levity. It's always like, it's always tit for tat stuff. And I feel like that degrades public trust as well. So just being honest, being genuine, I feel like that can go a long way. I guess we're done. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate it. I hope we get to have more conversations like this in the future. And thank you all.